Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to Rocket Summer 2025. This is a July event created by Michael K. Vaughan to celebrate classic science fiction throughout the hot month of the summer. July, unbelievably, has only a few days left, so I'm taking advantage of it to load on with classic science fiction. The final week of Rocket Summer is the 1960s, which is an incredibly populated decade for the genre. Rocket Summer is not like some other BookTube events where I've just decided to corral all of my reading on that subject to the 1 month in order to maximize the event. I read science fiction all year long. I read older science fiction. The new science fiction largely has zero interest for me. It's all identity politics. The science fiction, almost all identity politics. The science fiction constructs that the author has come up with in the novel are built on top of a lower layer of science fiction that is actually the author's conception of reality. You're supposed to just accept that and then move on to wormholes and fast light travel and whatnot. But that first layer of science fiction, of just a view of the world that is simply false, factually false. You're claiming all sorts of shambolic science to uphold it, but it takes only one poke at that science to realize. Anyway, almost all the science fiction that I read, I've given up on the square-bound periodicals that print science fiction short stories, because that was all I was reading. Was just, you have to accept my personal delusions, which are the first layer of science fiction. Then we can get on to gravimetric shields allowing me to navigate the storms of Jupiter. I'm perfectly happy with the second kind of science fiction. I am not at all going to subscribe to your personal delusions in order to read your fiction. So I've largely stopped doing that, but I still read science fiction, read and reread it all throughout the year. Same thing is true, oh my God, a million times over with March Mystery Madness. I simply cannot restrict my mystery reading to 1 month. And that's true with Rocket Summer as well. So, but nevertheless, I've been intensifying my reading of classic science fiction, especially from the 1960s. This novel that I read last night, I read a very short novel, 130 pages, last night because I was loaded with other stuff to read. So I read, basically, for me, a novella from the early 1960s. It called The Ladder in the Sky by Keith Woodcott, which is part of an ace double that I got specifically for Rocket Summer, and it felt weird. I admit, it felt weird. I mean, it wouldn't be weird for most people, but it felt weird for me not to just flip this over and read the whole thing. Read both the novels that are in here. These old ace doubles you have one short novel with its own cover. Then when you get to the end of it, you flip it over and you've got another short novel printed backwards, printed on the reverse of the first one, with its original cover as well. And ordinarily, when I pick up an ace double of anything, I'm in for the long haul. I'm in for both books, but I was pressed for reading time last night. So I only allowed myself this little novella, which is about a character named Kazan, who is, he's a waif, he's a starving, poor creature at the poorest quarter of the city. He has to steal food to live. He is a nobody. No one cares anything about him at all. When he becomes the semi-voluntary object of demonic possession, hence, I think, the cover. I have no idea who did this cover. Very quickly, I started reading this right away. I just picked it up and started reading it. It was the first ace double that my hand fell on that had the right dates, 1960s dates. So I just picked it up and started reading it. I did not look at who did the cover artwork. And as I went on, as I got to the third or fourth chapter of The Ladder in the Sky, there was also something I didn't check on that I am completely sure of. I wanted to make this video before I go and check, and then we'll see if I remember to go and check. At the ripe old age of 28, I might not remember to go and check. This is remarkably good. It's a remarkably good novella. It quickly becomes apparent, at least to me, that the demons and the magic and the expanding circle showing eyes that are not really eyes, it quickly became apparent to me that Keith Woodcott was characterizing all of that stuff as magic, largely from Kazan's point of view. It looked to, the more I read, the more it seemed to me that I was supposed to be catching up, that it's not magic at all, that all of it is science fiction. advanced technology of some kind or other. I loved the way it was done, though. Of course, the number one, two of my favorite science fiction slash fantasy novels that do that kind of thing are the Viraconium novels by M. John Harrison and the Shadow of the Torturer by Gene Wolfe. And this is very much along those lines, and I loved it. I loved how it was done. Just marvelously graceful. All of the characters in this book, that Kazan, once he has these extra demonic superpowers, has a mission. He has a mission on another world that involves a prince on that world who may or may not need his help and may or may not want it. And the prince has a mistress, Lady Brida, who is a really good character in this book. Really, really good. Memorable in a way that if it weren't for what happens to Kazan, I would not think he was memorable. You know, and it's an important thing to understand when reading genre fiction, but also fiction of any kind, is that a character isn't made interesting by what happens to them. They have to be interesting anyway. Which is one of my biggest, not to get way off track here, one of my biggest gripes with The Lord of the Rings. Frodo is not interesting until something happens to make him interesting, whereas Sam is interesting right from the beginning, before anything happens to him. But anyway, we can save that argument for another time. So right away at the beginning of this book, I got that impression. I got that wonderful shiver as a reader that, oh wait, this isn't magic. This isn't really a novella about demons. But everybody thinks it is. And the writer, Keith Woodcock, is not going out of his way to break that illusion. It's wonderfully done. Right early on in the book, I got that impression and was just on the edge of my seat waiting to see if it was confirmed, waiting how far it would go. But right early on in the book, about the third chapter, I got another impression as well. And I have not done anything to check on it. So we will see. I could have a Rocket Summer egg on my face. I have a strong suspicion that Keith Woodcock is a pseudonym. And as an uncanny chance would have it, I think I know who it's a pseudonym for. Because the reason here, let me see, I've actually got prompts here. The reason why my reading last night was a little cramped is because I got a box of library sale books in the mail yesterday, and they were calling to me. A number of them were calling to me, including one that I have as a mass market paperback, but that I had never read. And I was sent a hardcover of Crucible of Time by John Brunner. Now, I wanted to read this, and I did, and I really, really enjoyed it. There's a plot element in Crucible of Time about identity. What identity is. And when Kazan is being inhabited by this demon in this novel, he also wonders about it. It comes up over and over again, but it's stated explicitly at one point. The heritage Kazan carried with him into his new existence was compounded of that, and his need to be himself. He had to work hardest of all at being himself because he was so frightened of being a black devil instead. Who was anybody? He took to staring curiously at the other workers, sometimes without their noticing, for long minutes together as they attended to some small task or relaxed, eyes closed, wondering, what is it in that person which makes him or her not me? There would be a clue to himself in there, perhaps. I am a book critic. I have been reading prose critically for a long, long time, and if Keith Woodcock is not John Brunner, I don't know if John Brunner was writing books in the early 60s. I know he was writing books in the late 60s. But if he's not John Brunner, that is certainly a pseudonym for a writer of that time. I do not remember a science fiction writer named Keith Woodcock. This is too good. It's too good. No offense to the hacks and the schlockmeisters that I love so much for ace doubles, but this is too good to be one of those. I have read countless little science fiction novellas in the ace double line, and I've loved them all. Even when I hated them, even when they were junk, I've loved them all. But I don't, this was not the same thing. This was done by a serious writer, and I thought it was great. I thought it was absolutely great. I did not see the ending coming at all. The ending is so, you'll pardon the expression, human, considering how many identity swaps there are here and how much of this takes place in alien cultures. The ending is the whole final act is incredibly human. So I enjoyed this, and I don't know what to make of it. Maybe I have egg on my face. Maybe there's a long Wikipedia entry for Keith Woodcock. But if not, then who is this? Is this Samuel Delaney? Is this Jose Farmer? Is this maybe Keith Laumer? Is it John Brunner himself? I don't know. It reads very much like what I consider to be the beginning. Science fiction as a genre became great in the 60s. No offense to the dude bros out there who are naturally going to latch onto something from the 20s by men with beards down to their navels. And no offense certainly to my beloved Jules Verne. But science fiction really became great in the 60s. And this is very nearly a great novella. It's as far away from Captain Future. Anyway, I don't know. If Keith Woodcock is a pseudonym and I knew that once upon a time and forgot it, well, and now I'm wondering it all over again. But in any case, regardless of whether or not I'm right or wrong, I could be making a fool of myself. Maybe he's British and I just don't know. Maybe he's best friends with James Blish. I love this. Thought it was terrific. So now I don't know. This was the only one that I had time to read last night. And now I don't know. Does that break the spell of an ace double? If I can't just flip it over and read the whole thing at one sitting, then should I not at all? Should I pick another ace double where I do have time and just read the whole thing? Should I read The Darkness Before Tomorrow by Robert Moore Williams? I don't know. I don't know if I should or not. But the Ladder in the Sky was wonderful. So there you go. My Rocket Summer is going just fine as we enter the final days. Thank you, BookTube.